For years, America thought they knew the Gosselins, the picture-perfect family of 8 adorable kids, a strong and disciplined mother, a calm father, and a home where chaos was managed with love, laughter, and lots of cameras. They were the definition of the American dream. But Hannah Gosselin, the once silent daughter, is finally revealing the shocking truth, one that is far from the glittering image millions fell in love with. When Hannah was born on May 10, 2004, her life wasn't just beginning, it was being sold. She was one of the famous Gosselin sextuplets, entering a world where baby bibs, birthdays, bedrooms, and breakdowns were all filmed, edited, and broadcast for ratings. Her childhood bedroom wasn't always a place of comfort. Sometimes it was a set. Even before she could pronounce her own name, the world already knew her face. When TLC premiered Jon and Kate Plus 8 in 2007, America fell in love. They saw a strict but well-meaning mother, a passive father, and 8 beautiful children navigating home life with charm and innocence. But Hannah later said something chilling. She said, "We weren't just living. We were performing. Behind every smile was pressure. Behind every scene was a script, not written on paper, but written in silence, fear, and expectations. The house stopped feeling like a home. It became a production. Cameras were hidden in corners. Breakfast became content. Bath time became footage. Birthdays became TV specials. There were no private moments, no days off, no childhood the way other kids had it. A fight became an episode. A tear became a storyline. Even love felt like a scheduled thing. Kate often reminded them, "We are representatives of the brand," and that brand made millions. But behind closed doors, the emotional cost was slowly destroying the children. Hannah, naturally sensitive, felt it first. She wasn't the loud one. She wasn't the dramatic one. She was the one who quietly observed. She noticed the way her mother's tone changed when cameras started rolling. She noticed how her siblings acted differently when they were mic'd, and slowly she learned happy wasn't always real. Calm wasn't always safe. Family wasn't always love. Kate's discipline was praised by millions, but what viewers saw as strong parenting, Hannah experienced as control. Mealtimes were timed, outfits were assigned, free play was scheduled. Mistakes weren't just corrected, they were documented. But the deepest emotional wound came not for herself, but through her brother, Colin. Colin wasn't like the others. He was curious, expressive, energetic. And sometimes he questioned the rules. And in a home built on obedience, that wasn't allowed. When America stopped seeing Colin on TV, most assumed it was privacy, maybe health issues, maybe just growing up away from cameras. But Hannah knew. She saw the room he was kept in. She remembered the silence. She remembered asking, "Where's Colin?" but getting no answer. Years later, on Vice TV, her voice shaking but strong, she said he would eat alone. He wouldn't come outside. He wasn't allowed to be part of the family. She revealed that their mother kept Colin in a locked room called a containment space. It had cameras. It had a bolt lock from the outside. He was monitored, not mothered. The world gasped. Was Kate Gosselin, America's supermom, actually isolating her child? Was the picture-perfect mother actually controlling, punishing, and emotionally distancing her kids? Was TV not just documenting their life, but changing their life forever? And then Colin spoke. He confirmed everything. He spoke not with anger, not with revenge, but with heartbreaking calm. He said, "My mom had a room built with cameras. I was restrained. I was locked away. I was treated differently, not because I was sick, but because I was inconvenient." That sentence crushed millions. Kate defended herself, saying it was a medical decision, but Hannah's quiet words made it clear. It wasn't about mental health. It was about control. It wasn't about helping Colin. It was about removing him. Hannah stayed silent for years, not because she agreed, but because she was scared. She once said, "Keeping quiet kept the peace." But when she turned 14, something changed. She realized that freedom wasn't just a dream. It was a decision, and she made it. She left. She didn't run. She didn't fight. She chose. She told her father, "Jon, I don't want to go back." And that moment changed everything. Jon said in an interview, she was just a girl who wanted to live a normal life. And that's exactly what she did. She moved in with him. She enrolled in school. She got privacy. She got quiet. She got to laugh without a camera watching. She got to cry without millions analyzing her face. She got to be Hannah. Not Hannah from TV, just Hannah. Jon later said, "I got my daughter back." Not the TV version, the real one. Shortly after, Colin joined them, and the world saw something no one expected. 2 of the 8 Gosselin children living freely, smiling naturally, healing together. But freedom came with heartbreak. The siblings were split. 4 stayed with Kate. The twins moved away. Holidays became complicated. Birthdays became quiet. The once inseparable 8, now emotionally scattered. But Hannah didn't speak out to tear anyone down. She didn't want revenge. She didn't want attention. She wanted truth. She wanted peace. She wanted the world to understand fame isn't family, control isn't love, and motherhood isn't about managing image. It's about protecting hearts. Now Hannah is 20 years old. She has a skincare brand. She attends college. She smiles more. She forgives slowly. And she heals loudly. She still loves her mother. But love doesn't mean silence anymore. She says, "Speaking up wasn't about hurting anyone. It was about helping myself." Now her story is no longer edited, no longer controlled, no longer scripted for ratings. This time it's real. And maybe one day the Gosselin family will sit at the same table again, not as TV characters, but as humans, healing, forgiving, relearning how to love without cameras. But until then, Hannah is free. And this time, she's speaking for herself. If this story shook you, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Hannah and Kate will ever truly reconcile? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real and untold Hollywood stories. Hannah said that for years, she felt like her life wasn't really hers. Every memory, every smile, every birthday, every argument, it all belonged to the cameras, contracts, and the audience. She once described it as living in a story someone else was writing, except she was the character with no lines, just expectations. She was expected to smile, obey, and stay quiet. But silence isn't peace. Silence is survival, until it breaks. She remembers growing up watching her mother transform when cameras arrived. The strictness intensified. The smiles became sharper, practiced. Hannah could see the difference between a real moment and a filmed moment. And she says something chilling. Our home didn't have memories. It had episodes. The saddest part? Hannah didn't even know what real family love was supposed to feel like, because she had only experienced the televised version. Publicly, Kate was seen as a supermom. Tough, organized, strong. She was celebrated, even admired. But behind closed doors, Hannah says it felt more like living under emotional surveillance. Everything was controlled. What they ate, what they wore, how they spoke, who they could trust, even how they cried. Yes, even their tears were regulated. If you're going to cry, Hannah recalls being told, at least don't do it on camera. But that was the problem. It was never clear what was real and what wasn't. Privacy vanished. Even vulnerability felt like a performance. Growing up, Hannah says she felt like a brand, not a daughter. A brand to be protected, a brand to be monetized, a brand that couldn't afford mistakes. She remembers nights where she'd stare at the ceiling, wondering, do people love me, or do they love the show? But the deepest pain wasn't her own. It was watching what happened to her brother, Colin. In the beginning, she remembers Colin as sweet, smiling, energetic. The kind of child who asked too many questions, laughed too loudly, and loved too fiercely. But over time, she noticed a change. Not in him, but in how he was treated. She remembers the day his belongings started disappearing from the shared spaces. His clothes weren't in the laundry basket anymore. His shoes weren't by the door. And one day, he wasn't at breakfast. Not for one day. Not for a week.
For months.
Hannah said it felt like he had been erased. First from the house, then from the episodes, then from their lives. She remembers asking, "Where is Colin?" but receiving no real answer. Just silence. The kind that tells you the truth is too ugly to say. Years later, the truth came out from Colin himself. He described being locked in a room, watched by cameras, restrained by zip ties. He said it wasn't punishment, it was isolation. He said, I didn't exist to them anymore. Hannah remembers crying when she heard that, because emotionally she had felt something similar. Not physically locked away, but emotionally, psychologically. She understood what it felt like to be unseen in your own home, to be present, but invisible, to be a child, but not protected. Fans couldn't believe it. Viewers asked, how could a mother do this? But Hannah didn't ask that question. She had lived in that world. She had seen how when fame mixes with pressure, when reputation matters more than honesty, truth becomes the enemy. She says, people think emotional abuse is yelling or screaming, but sometimes it's silence, it's control. It's when love feels like something you have to earn. By the time she was 14, Hannah realized something profound. Fame wasn't the Gosselin family's biggest problem. Silence was, and for the first time in her life, She decided not to stay silent. She didn't start by giving interviews. She didn't run to the press. She did something far braver. One ordinary afternoon, during a routine court visitation with her dad, she simply said, "I don't want to go back." It was the quietest sentence she ever spoke, but it was also the loudest. Jon Gosselin later said, "That was the moment everything changed. This was no longer about custody, or money, or reputation. It was about Hannah choosing peace over perfection." She moved in with her father, and for the first time, she saw what a real home felt like. No cameras, no staged moments, no scripts, just dinners at the table, just laughs that weren't filmed, just being Hannah, not Hannah Gosselin. But what came next? Was forgiveness or more painful truths? Years later, Hannah would look back and realize that healing wasn't about choosing sides. It wasn't about proving who was right or wrong. It was about reclaiming her voice, her identity, and the childhood that had been broadcast to millions but never truly lived. It was about forgiving, not to excuse, but to free herself from the burden of holding on to what hurt. She once said something that stunned everyone. "I don't hate my mother. I just needed to learn how to love myself outside of her rules." Those words weren't angry. They were heartbreaking. They were the voice of a girl who had lived in a household where every smile was curated, every hug scheduled, every emotion filtered through a camera lens. Learning, finally, how to feel something real. Not for the audience, not for approval, but for herself. The most heartbreaking truth was this: fame took away more than her privacy. It took away her childhood. It took away real memories, real laughter. Real moments meant only for family, not for ratings. She once told a friend, "I don't remember birthdays without cameras. I don't remember hugs without microphones around." That wasn't childhood. That was production. And yet, even after everything, Hannah didn't want revenge. She wanted peace. In early 2024, she did something no one expected. She agreed to meet her mother for coffee, not as a daughter facing her mother, not as two figures in a famous Hollywood feud, but as two women trying to understand each other. The meeting was quiet. No cameras, no managers, no headlines, no scripts. Just a mother and a daughter navigating years of silence, pain, and misunderstanding. A witness at that cafe said they didn't argue, they didn't cry loudly, they just talked, softly, carefully. And at one moment, Kate reached across the table and softly held her daughter's hand. It wasn't reconciliation, it wasn't an apology, it wasn't closure, but it was a start. For the first time in years, Hannah felt something that didn't come with pressure, performance, or expectations. She felt human. The world may remember Kate as a strict perfectionist, a reality TV mother who built a multi-million-dollar brand out of order, control, and structure. They may remember Jon as the laid-back father who became the symbol of rebellion, breaking away from the machine. But Hannah, she is something entirely different. She is the voice of the forgotten child. She represents every kid who smiled for cameras but felt unseen. She represents every child who grew up in a home that wasn't a home, every child who was told, "This is for the brand," when their heart was silently breaking. Today, Hannah is building a life that is finally hers. Not staged, not edited, not produced, just real. She doesn't want fame. She doesn't want revenge. She doesn't want pity. She wants the one thing she never had, while living in one of the most famous homes in America.
Peace.
She once posted a simple photo of herself sitting at a lake. No makeup, no lights, no filters. The caption had only 3 words. "Finally, just me." It went viral, not because of drama, not because of scandal, but because for the first time the world saw Hannah Gosselin, not as the daughter in the matching outfit, not as a TV character, not as one of the 8, but simply as a girl who survived what millions thought looked perfect. The girl who walked out of a life that
it was being filmed and
stepped into a life that could finally be lived. And that is the truth she wanted the world to know, not to destroy her mother, not to expose her family, but to tell every young person who feels trapped, controlled, silenced, or used, your voice matters, your feelings are real, and you are allowed to choose peace over perfection. Do you believe Hannah will one day fully forgive her mother? Not for the cameras, not for the interviews, but for her own heart? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and stick around, because some stories don't just entertain us, they wake us up